Welcome to Conversations and Coffee, where we have conversations that are authentic, lighthearted, and purposeful. Our conversations will be engaging. You will hear from industry experts that will have you saying, "Whoa, wow, I didn't know that." Join us, because it's all about you, your loved ones, and anyone who want to stay informed and, of course, living your best life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations in Coffee. I'm Dr. Joy, the host of this show. I am glad you are here eavesdropping on the conversation.
Wants to come up, and I want you to get one of these dishes or say your own, and then I want someone else to kind of decide if there's any fruits or vegetables they could add to that dish to make it more of a rainbow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're gonna take the classic dishes we love, we're gonna add fruits and vegetables to them. Okay, so does anyone wanna start? And you can either use your dish that you mentioned, or you can use one of them.
Hey, Joy Chasers. Glad you have made it back to join the conversation with me, Dr. Joy, and Karen Webb, part 2. So let's move on from that. And can you tell me, what is the difference between whole foods and processed foods? Because it's so much out there.
Mm-hmm. So whole foods are foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. So if you go to the store and you see like an apple or a banana or a bell pepper, those are whole. Yeah, those are whole foods. Or even in the meat section, like a chicken breast or a chicken thigh. Those are whole foods that are as natural as possible to their natural state. Whole grains are also like whole foods because nothing has been, basically with a whole food, nothing has really been done to it. Mm-hmm. So when you buy it, when you prepare it, you're really the only person that's processing it. Processed foods, on the other hand, are foods that have been processed in like a factory or some kind of plant, and they're usually in like a package. So if you think about some of the things we've been talking about, like cookies, frozen pizza, individual freezer meals, white bread is a processed food because the part of the grain has been removed from it. So processed foods are usually things that either something has been like added to it for texture, flavor, preservative, or something has been taken out of it. Mm-hmm. It's not in the same state that it was in its original form. And the thing about processed foods is often they can be higher in calories and higher in saturated fat, sodium, added sugars. And so they often have less nutritional value than the whole foods.
Okay, so I guess that is very important when you are doing your grocery shopping for your foods, just making sure you pick the right foods that are going to be beneficial to you. So I guess the whole foods are the ones that are more beneficial to a person, eating daily than, the processed foods.
And some of it depends on whether you have the space and the equipment and the time to cook. Processed foods certainly can be convenient, and they can, if that's what you need to do, that it's okay to do that. It's just to be aware that there is a different nutritional value to them generally, and that's the thing is I think it's important for people to be able to make informed decisions about what they eat. And so part of that is just, knowing the difference between if you buy a chicken breast or a chicken thigh versus if you purchase a frozen entree that has chicken in it, that's versus taking the chicken breast or thigh home and cooking it yourself and seasoning it and processing it yourself. Just being aware.
So should you be aware, which brings me to the next question, eating out versus cooking at home?
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what options if
Mm-hmm.
you're eating out more? Because I can just say, like my dad is a single person
Mm-hmm.
living in the home. He does
Mm-hmm.
not know how to cook.
Okay.
So he eats out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always trying to tell him, okay, Dad, are you gonna, cook something, or can I learn how to cook something at home? Because I don't know if eating out is a good option. So I guess can you share how that looks, what kind of options you would have if you were eating out, and what is better for you, eating out or, well, no, I probably cooking at home was probably better, but can you just kind of share with us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So eating out, we all do it. It's, we do that for special occasions. We do that for busy days when we don't have time to cook. We do it, not everybody cooks. Not everybody wants to cook. So there's, I do think eating out can be part of a nutritious eating plan. What I recommend is, first of all, I'm a big fan of planning ahead. I like to take a sneak peek at the menu and see what's there available for me. And I try to look, first of all, are there dishes that have like fruits and vegetables in them? Or could I choose that as a side dish? When I'm looking at the list of side dishes, maybe I'll choose green beans or broccoli. And so I try to look ahead and see what looks healthy. And then when I get the meal, maybe if you can get a side salad, I'll eat the salad first to try to make sure I get the fruits and vegetables before I start eating the proteins and the grains and the other things in the meal. So planning ahead helps me. And restaurant menus are required generally now to put nutrition information on them. So you should be able to get, if you have a specific eating plan that you're following, you can get the nutrition information for each dish on the menu. And sometimes they'll have like a little carrot or an apple or something next to certain dishes that'll say this dish is lower in fat or lower in sodium. So if there's a specific, and they make it easy for you to look at that and spot kind of what their lighter options are. The other thing is restaurant portions sometimes can be large.
Yes, huge. I take half of it home.
There you go. So ask for a box. And say, can I have a box? And then maybe take half of that and put it in the box and take it home to have it the next day. Or, don't be like me though, and forget the box and leave it on the table, because I do that a lot. So you got to take the box home. But I think that, just keep being mindful of that, how much you're eating of that restaurant meal, and also just taking the time to choose a choice that maybe has a little bit more nutrition in it. And restaurants have a lot of good options, so.
I think the option that you said, that you told us when you said, think about what you're going to eat prior to you going to that restaurant by looking at the menu. I never thought about it as far as a nutrition aspect of it, but that's a good idea. I usually look at the menu regardless before I even get to the restaurant, because I'm a picky eater. So when I'm around people and we're, in a social type atmosphere, I don't want everyone waiting on me to make a decision. So I make that decision prior to me going, but not always is that decision a nutritious one. I do like what you said about using it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you look, a lot of times you'll have the option of like having your chicken fried or baked or grilled. So like baking and grilling and roasting tend to be lower in saturated fat than if you order like a fried chicken or, so.
And
kind
you
of
can
looking.
really look at those options when you're in your own atmosphere, because
Mhm.
most of these menus, they have so many things on there, and the waiter is standing there waiting on you to order, and you're just trying to do something really quick. But if you're at home before you go, you can look through that menu and just really make some very good decisions about the food that you're going to eat.
Yeah.
And does the options as far as eating at home, those options would be just going to the grocery store and picking the right whole food?
Yeah. I think the planning is really important, to plan your meals, to sit down and think to yourself, what can I, what do I want to eat this week? Or what food do I have on hand that I want to use up? And kind of getting an idea of your meal plan. For me, trying to make sure I get my amount of fruits and vegetables, which sometimes has been challenging for me, is to make sure that I get enough at the store that I can, incorporate into my meals. So I make a plan for what I'm going to eat that week, and then I do a grocery list from that. And then I am planning ahead so that I have what I need on hand to make those meals.
Yes. And that is hard. I can truly say, just as a person who cooks most of the time, we don't eat out a lot, but I do a lot of cooking. When you are making decisions on what you're going to eat for that day, or that week, you don't want to keep eating the same thing over and over again. You're looking like, oh my. But there are lots of people on different social media platforms that have all types of things that you can choose to cook. Like my husband told me when we were actually going grocery shopping this week, he says, Joy, well, there are only so many types of meat. Just choose the meat and decide on what you're going to cook later. And which is true. I'm trying very hard to kind of juggle what we're going to eat without repeating it over and over and over again. Because I'm a foodie. I like the taste of food. I don't like bland food. So I want our eavesdroppers to know that you do have options when it comes to, you don't have to keep repeating the same thing over and over again.
And I actually keep a list of the meals that I make that I really like, that I want to make again. It's like my do this again list, because I forget, and I do the same thing. Sometimes I get in the same habit of eating the same things over and over. And so then I go look at my list and like, what's something I haven't made in a while that, and the other thing is I also, one of the goals of our program is to focus on really people eating healthy on a budget. So I'm a believer, as part of your meal planning, to wherever you do your shopping, they probably have a sale, like a sale paper, either in paper or on their app.
Yeah.
I go through that and I look at what's on sale, and then I try to see how can I build a meal around that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So if they are having a great sale this week on, on chicken, I'll say, what can I do with with chicken, and if for like a senior that might be living by themselves, living alone, or maybe it's just two in the household, certainly, if you get a good deal on something, you can buy it, and then you can like break the package apart and wrap it and individually freeze so that you can take them out one or two at a time later. So I think that it's a great way to save money by really shopping those sales and buying that food at the best price that we can get it at. So
that was a good option.
Yeah.
I never thought about looking at the sales paper and seeing what they have on sale and kind of making my menu around that. That was a very good option. I like that.
And another thing I do is, and this goes back to trying to increase kind of the fruits and vegetables. If I have a dish that calls for like a pound of ground beef, I'll use a half of a pound of ground beef, and I will throw in a can of like black beans or pinto beans if it's like a soup or a stew or a casserole. So it saves me the money and on the meat, but it also is less saturated fat. And then I also get all the great nutrition and fiber that's in the beans.
Okay.
So I
Wow.
get everything. So it's the best of everything.
Good options. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think I will try that this weekend when it's time for me to go grocery shopping again, because they send out those sales papers or ads at least once a week. So you can decide that way. Thank you for that. I think a lot of people will probably try that.
Yes.
So moving on from just the foods that we eat, many people, they do take supplements. Does this help with having a balanced diet?
So some people do take supplements. They can be a way to provide essential nutrients if you're not getting that from your the whole fresh foods that you're eating. In general, it's best to get all of your to get most of your nutrition from a variety of foods. So what I would recommend is always for people to talk to their healthcare provider about the supplements that they are taking or want to take, and how that might fit into their diet and their nutrition.
I can see that because there's so many supplements that are out there. I know my mom is constantly saying, okay, I think you need to take that, or I think you need to take that. I'm looking like, let me ask the doctor about that.
Absolutely. And there are so many different situations with, I couldn't speak to any, and overall there's the answer, I guess, would be to just check with your healthcare provider and kind of talk with them, have that conversation about your supplements and how that fits in.
But mostly we can truly say your best option is just eating good food, nutritious food.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right. And as we are still talking about the nutrition in food, should we read nutrition labels when buying food from the grocery store? Just like you said about the menus, reading, what the nutritional value is. Should we do the same thing when we're buying food from the grocery store?
I love reading nutrition labels. And so most packaged products are required to have a nutrition. It's called the nutrition facts label. You usually can find it on the back of the box or the can, and it's like a rectangle, and it says at the top nutrition facts. And it tells you a couple things. First of all, it tells you what the typical serving size is for that item. That's not necessarily what recommended that you eat, the amount that you eat, but it tells you kind of what the typical serving is. And then underneath it, it'll tell you how many calories are in that serving size. And below that, there's information about the different nutrients in that product. So it's a great way to tell if something, it lists, like, for one thing, how much saturated fat, sodium, and added sugar is in that product. Those are the three things that we're trying to avoid or limit in our diet. So you can tell right away, is something like high in saturated fat? Is it low in sodium? It kind of gives you an idea of when you eat that product or drink that product, what nutrients you will be getting or not getting from that.
Okay.
And it also has an ingredient list, usually next to the nutrition facts panel, and that's valuable too, because the ingredients are listed in the ingredient that's the highest in volume, the greatest amount in volume is listed first, and then in descending order after that. So
I didn't know that. So whatever's first is what's mostly in.
Is the highest amount in volume. And so there's a couple of things. If it's a really long ingredient list, it's probably a highly processed food, because that means that many things have been included in that food as it's been processed. If it's a really short ingredient list, it's as pretty close to a whole food. I've got an example. I'm looking at a nutrition label for no added salt black beans. So it's a can of black beans, and the ingredient list is prepared black beans and water.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's not a highly processed food. That's something that's basically the beans are cooked and put into water and stuck and put into a can. So the ingredient list can tell you that. The other thing the ingredient list can tell you is if something is a whole grain. So remember I talked about the whole grains. If you look at the ingredient list and the first word is whole, like whole grain, whole wheat, that's a whole grain.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I remember when, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, but when you came out to the community and you were talking about the canned peaches, I believe, I think you read the nutritional label and you said these peaches are in their own juice. So, so when people are looking at like canned foods, is it better to have it, especially fruit, in its own juice instead of all of that added sugar?
Sure. So there's the fruits are generally either going to be in juice or in heavy syrup, or sometimes light syrup. So syrup is sugar. So if you buy fruit that's in sugar in syrup, you know it's going to have a lot of added sugar. Where if it's in its juice, it's not going to have any sugar added other than the natural sweetness of that fruit juice. So I always tell people if you get fruit that's in heavy syrup, it's really simple. You just open the can, drain it, run some water over it to rinse off that syrup, and that's taking away most of that, added sugar. And you can also
made that mistake one time, and I called my mom because I'm a baker. I love to bake, and my mother does too. And I was like, Mom, I went to the store, I bought this, and it was late at night, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I said, it says heavy syrup. And she says, oh, baby, all you got to do is, drain it and rinse it off. And hopefully it'll get all of the, the extra sugar or the syrup off of it. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, and you can do that with sodium too. Like canned vegetables sometimes have a lot of sodium. You can get no salt added versions, but if you end up with a can that's not no salt added, it probably has quite a bit of sodium. So you can again drain it, rinse it, and then you'll wash off a lot of that sodium. So
wow. Now the other thing that is tricky, and I don't know, maybe it's not tricky, but to me, I feel like it's tricky. Is when you are reading the nutritional label on something. For an example, what did I buy? I think it was a bag of chips. Okay, so I bought a bag of chips, and I was reading it, and it was looking okay to me. Then I ate, my bag of chips or whatever. And my husband said, "Well, did you see what the serving size was on that?" And I said, it was just a bag of chips. I'm assuming it said so many calories and all of these things. And he said, no, you ate 2 servings of that. So you need to multiply the calories times 2 and everything. Is that true?
It's true. Everything on that label underneath serving size is based on that serving size. So, and it, again, the thing about nutrition labels is it's information that you can use to make your choices. So I do caution people always check the serving size. And if it looks like a single serve item, like a bag, even if it's like a bag of chips that you get at the store that looks like an individual bag, check because it might be 2 servings. A candy bar might be 2 servings.
I did not know that until, of course, I mean, this was a long time ago. Now I know all of these things, but when we were, young, trying to figure it all out as far as food and buying those kind of things, with those chips, I could not believe it. And I'm like, was I tricked? Because normally you get this bag of chips and you see, okay, serving size, and you see all those things, but you don't think, I'm eating this bag of chips, but that's really 2 servings of chips. So the calories that I just ate is times 2, and all the other nutritional things are times 2. So I think people really need to know that is that way.
It's important to be informed, and it's important for us to be very informed and be able to make decisions about what we eat and drink. Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we continue going through our interview today, I know as a society, we crave sugar. We've already kind of talked about natural sugars, and I talked about that I'm a baker, so I use the sugar that you need to limit. But how can this be controlled when you are craving sugar, maybe a lot, and you just like, oh my gosh, I gotta eat something, and usually you're eating something unhealthy like a candy bar or piece of cake or a piece of pie. How can you control that?
So, yeah, I mean, we love our sugar. I mean, we love our sugar sweetened beverages, and we love our cookies and our cakes and ice cream and things like that. And like I said earlier, we want to definitely have a room for that in our day, in our lives. The recommendation, the thing about sugar, and particularly, added sugar is what we're really concerned about, the sugar that's added during processing. The problem with that is we're really only supposed to have like 10% of our calories for the day made up of added sugar. So, and that's for women, that's about 6 teaspoons a day. And for men, that's about 9 teaspoons a day is the recommendation.
You said added sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're adding something, or is it based on like if you're eating something processed?
So foods have like natural sugar in them that just occurs as a natural part of what they are. So the added sugar is sugar, like if you put sugar in your tea, or the sugar that you put into the cake, anything that is added up above and beyond what is the natural sugar in the food. So so the thing is, if you get too many of your calories for the day with added sugar, it makes it really hard to leave room for the nutrient dense foods that you need to eat to meet your nutritional needs. That's why they call them empty calories, because they provide a lot of energy in the form of calories, but they don't really provide us a lot of nutrition. So, and then our nutrition suffers. So, a couple things that I think are helpful is one of the ways that Americans get a lot of sugar, our added sugar, is through our beverages. We drink, when we drink sodas or fruit punches or sports drinks. So an alternative to that, that's one way that we can cut back on our added sugar. And a way to do that is to get a glass of water, or if you prefer bubbles, get some seltzer water and just splash a little bit of your favorite juice in there. To give it a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of flavor, so you're hydrating yourself, but you're not really getting a lot of added sugar. So, sweetened beverages is one way that we can limit our sugar. Another option, again, we talked earlier about using fruits and the natural sugar that's in the fruit to help us satisfy our sweet tooth. So those are just a couple of ways to, and also reading our nutrition labels to try to find things that are low in added sugar.
Okay, good.
And I also think what I was saying earlier about, eat one cookie instead of two, or, try to have a little bit of our treats. And I call them treats because they're special things that we don't necessarily want to be eating every day. Have a little bit less of that treat and savor that and enjoy that.
Okay. Those are some good options. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we kind of talked about snacking options. How can we live our best life when it comes to food and really balancing our diet? That's kind of my last question about nutrition I have. How can we live our best life with this?
So I think that the best way that I can think of to summarize it is enjoy the foods that you love and make them as nutritious as possible. I mean, it's because we do want to enjoy our food. as much as possible, try to make eating a social event. If you're able to sit down at a table with someone and have a meal, that's always to me a special moment. Said that one of the ways that they stayed connected was by using like Zoom or Skype to have a video call and like eat a meal with that person.
I've done that.
Yeah, you're eating your food, they're eating their food, you're talking. It's almost like you can put it across the table, like they're sitting across the table.
Especially
and of course,
when the pandemic was here, we did that.
Then we all started Zooming, and I think we discovered that that's a really good way to connect with people if that's what you have to do, So I think as much as possible, enjoying your food in a social way. Figure out, find your favorite dishes and figure out how to incorporate fruits and vegetables into them. I do a game called Make a Classic Better, where I challenge people to, if you have a family traditional dish or a dish, a holiday special dish, try to think of how you can maybe add a fruit or vegetable to it. I mean, people were saying they add to their macaroni and cheese, like broccoli or carrots.
I remember you did that with the participants in the class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Throw if you're making, if you have like a soup or something, like throw an extra handful of spinach or something into that. Even like if you're having canned soup, which is a kind of highly processed food, throw a handful of spinach or some kind of fresh vegetables into it. Adding fruit to your yogurt is a great way to do that. So I think like finding opportunities to add those fruits and vegetables you can still eat those dishes that you love, but try to challenge yourself to see if you could add a fruit or a vegetable to it.
Wow. Yes.
And the other thing is I talked a lot about like lowering sodium. Be adventurous. Try out different herbs and seasonings. Go get some herbs and seasonings and sprinkle them on and try different combinations and try to make that food, squeeze a little bit of citrus onto it, citrus juice, like a lemon or a lime. And
I can tell you it really worked because last night, what did we have? We had carrots and asparagus.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to think of what can I do instead of just the salt and pepper. I looked through my cabinet because my son is 6'3", and so I couldn't reach that high. I was like, look up there and see what seasoning. And he looked and brought down the Italian seasoning with from I think it's Miss Dash or something like that, which is no salt. And I put it on there, and let me tell you, it gave it some really good flavor. So you're correct about doing that, just trying new things.
You can make some really good salt-free seasonings from the things that are in your spice cabinet. So so just that's my advice, but mostly enjoy your food and make it as nutritious as possible.
Yes, to continue living your best life. You're right. So I want to sum up our conversation by having some fun. Let's get into something I call our 5-second thoughts. Your answers are more personal than professional.
Okay.
Try to think of the first word that pops into your mind, and you can repeat the same statement I say, so it flows better with the word that you use. So are you ready to kind of start this 5-second thought?
I'm ready to play.
So today I am
excited for the future.
Yay.
I'm sorry, today I am excited for the future.
All right. Our conversation was
fun and hopefully enlightening.
Yes, it was very enlightening. I learned some things, and I hope our eavesdroppers will learn some things as well. Coffee is
good for me in moderation.
You're right. In moderation. Do you add sugar? Because I add sugar.
I do add sugar to my coffee.
Yes, that's that add sugar. So I do add the sugar.
Yeah.
I love
to I love to cook food for people and and watch them enjoying it.
I think you do. Just in your bio, you said that when you, just what you said about going to the classes and teaching those classes. I think you do. You answered that one really good. Yeah. Yes. When I laugh,
when I laugh, I laugh out loud, and I feel better.
Yes.
Or I feel good. Yeah.
Me too. I am such a person. You will always probably catch me smiling and just got a big grin on my face. And it is something that I love because it makes me feel so good inside. And
I notice
our health too, just feeling good.
Absolutely. And if I notice I haven't laughed for a while, I can definitely feel the difference. Like I need a good laugh.
Yeah. My personality is?
I would say my personality is energetic.
Mine too.
I try. Yes.
Mine too. My nutrition life is?
My nutrition life is a journey. Some days are better than others, but I always try to keep moving ahead.
Yeah. When you mentioned that in the beginning, the journey. It's truly a journey for me. Like I said, it's like I start over every year. But it's a journey. You're right. I love what I do because.
I love what I do because I get up every morning and I have the opportunity to help people and care for people, and I can't imagine it gets any better than that.
Oh, that is so much. Thank you so much, Karen, for being a part of Conversations and Coffee. It is always a great experience when we can learn more to help us live our best life. My hope is that our eavesdroppers today have learned a lot through your knowledge. And one more thing, eavesdroppers, I would love to keep the conversation going. We are ready to tackle any questions and comments about nutrition, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. So see you next time on Conversations and Coffee.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Joy.
Thank you.